On behalf of the Board of UN Watch, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to share a tribute to you with, and on behalf of Ambassador Alfred Moses, a distinguished diplomat, an exemplary public servant, counsel to presidents, and a lawyer's lawyer. Tonight, on the occasion of Alfred's 18 years of devoted service as the chair of UN Watch, we express our deep gratitude to him for his inspired leadership, his generosity, his wisdom, and his stunning achievements. Alfred has brought a repository of expertise and experience to his role as UN chair, which has found continuing expression in his encounters with government leaders, foreign ministers, UN officials, civil society, and the like. Based in Washington, D.C., Alfred was a partner for over 40 years in the law firm of Covington and Burling, where he was a specialist in litigation, arbitration, and international corporate counsel with global reach and impact, the whole underpinning his founding of the Promontory Financial Group, a premier global consulting firm. Alfred's success, compelling success in the private sector, has been more than paralleled by his accomplishments as diplomat, public servant, and human rights advocate, including serving as a special presidential emissary for the Cyprus conflict from 1999 to 2001, serving as U.S. ambassador to Romania from 1994 to 1997, and special advisor and special counsel to both U.S. Presidents Carter and Clinton. A public intellectual, educated at Dartmouth, Princeton, and a graduate of Georgetown Law School, where he was editor-in-chief of the Law Review. Alfred has been an avid reader of history, philosophy, law, and Judaism, a prolific publisher in the New York Times, Washington Post, Christian Science Monitors, and international periodicals in the US, Europe, and the Middle East, and has been profoundly engaged in basic questions facing our common humanity, the whole anchored in his enduring commitment to Jewish values. His abiding pursuit of justice found public expression in his engagement on behalf of Romanian Jews, where he first went to Romania in 1976, leading then a delegation from the American Jewish Committee. And after witnessing the persecution of Romanian Jews, he returned to Washington and for the next 13 years played a key role in helping them gain the freedom to emigrate, as he was involved also in the struggle for Soviet Jewry. Returning to Romania now as ambassador, as I mentioned, from 1994 to 1997, he played a historic role in the transformation of Romania from having been a deeply mired communist state to an emergent democracy, playing an important role in the European Union, in NATO, and amongst the world's democracies. These important episodes in history are recounted in Alfred's recent and acclaimed memoir, Bucharest Diary, Romania's Journey from Darkness to Light, that I commend to all of you to read, not only of a compelling story and political history, and this I add, this is not something that Alfred wrote about in his book, but about the historical role that one man played in the history of Romania, both with regard to freeing Romania's Jews and with regard to effectively helping to free Romania itself. Alfred has also been engaged on the communal level, both nationally and internationally. He was national president of the American Jewish Committee and helped transform it to a leading global human rights organization. Served on the boards of Bet HaTfutzot, as chair of its honorary board, on the Institute of National Security Studies, and other nonprofit institutions. In 2013, Georgetown University awarded him its highest honor for, and I quote, "the integrity with which he has conducted his life and career," unquote. May I add on a personal note that I have rarely met a person of such integrity and commitment to the public good as our honoree this evening, Alfred Moses. Yet, despite the many demands on his schedule, Alfred always found time for UN Watch, which, in his words, and I quote, is the embodiment of the modern-day David facing the world's Goliath. In particular, under Alfred's leadership and working in close partnership with Hillel Neuer, the great executive director of UN Watch, and you just saw just glimpses of the extraordinary and incredible leadership that Hillel Neuer has been providing. And I'm proud to say that he was the best of my students when I was a professor at law school. But as I can say with great pride, has surpassed those who taught him. And it is Alfred, together with Hillel and UN Watch, that have reached new and unprecedented heights, where in speaking truth to power, as you've seen in the video, and in holding power to truth, they have reached millions worldwide. During a time of dangerous polarization and populism, UN Watch, thanks to Alfred at its helm, has stayed the course, never veering from its unifying mission, a mission to uphold the founding principles of the UN Charter, of equality for all nations, large and small, to protect human rights for all, and to fight for the equal treatment of Israel and the Jewish people as part of the betterment of the human condition. When it comes to saving lives, when it comes to Pidyon Shvuim, the freeing of political prisoners, I've experienced Alfred's commitment and passion, as he will declare. What are we doing to free the jailed Saudi blogger Raif Badawi? What are we doing to save the victims of North Korea and more? And that is why the Hebrew inscription of tonight's award to Alfred, written on parchment by a scribe in Jerusalem, quotes from the ancient proverb of Rabbi Hillel, Im lo achshav, im ematai. If not now, when? That the struggle for human rights, that the pursuit of justice has to have a sense of urgency about it. Ladies and gentlemen, please now turn your attention to the screens.
The Human Rights Council, a body whose main purpose in life is to condemn Israel. If you can think of it, there's a UN resolution condemning Israel for it. Yet Israel is a democratic state.
The rights of persons oppressed in Tibet, in China, in Russia, in North Korea, in Saudi Arabia, Iran, are totally ignored. What further action, we ask, will you take to protect Iranian women activists from beatings by their government? Again, Iran has failed to respond to your appeal. Its only answer has been silence. Israel is held up for opprobrium, a democratic country, simply because the political climate in the world today does not recognize universal human rights. It is you and persons like you who must bring the light into areas of darkness, into the damp cells in Burma, into the torture chambers in Zimbabwe, imprisonment of persons in Iran and in China, wherever darkness exists. The regimes are bound to fail today and in all the years to come. Those who care more, those who are more committed, those who are willing to sacrifice will be not they, but we.
May I invite the man, Alfred Moses, who has brought light into the darkness, to join us here on stage.
I think you'll agree with me that Irwin exceeded himself. And I'm sure you're disappointed after listening to all those words. You expected a much older person. Sorry to disappoint you. I am fully entitled to all the honors I've received. Humility is not part of my makeup. I've done 3 outstanding things, none of which was mentioned by Irwin. Incidentally, he was the Attorney General of Canada, is probably the leading human rights leader in the world. And we have wonderful people here tonight who haven't been mentioned. Malcolm Hoenlein, longtime head of the Conference of Presidents of major Jewish organizations. Neil Kosovoy, longtime editor of Commentary magazine when it was published by the American Jewish Committee, and so many others. The 3 things that I've done in my lifetime, for which I'm entitled to all the tributes that you've heard. I married my wife in 1955, Carol Whitehill. After she died, I married Fern Schad in 2005. And to revert back, in 2004, I hired Hillel Neuer. I say I hired him, it was really Shula Bahat and I. Shula was the Associate Director of the American Jewish Committee, and I was the chair of UN Watch, the boy chair. The wonderful thing about Hillel, I don't know if you noticed it, but when we hired him, he had one major drawback, handicap. He was terribly, terribly overqualified. And that was troubling for us. But he's overcome it. And I have no regrets. You notice Hillel looks more and more like Herzl. Do you notice that? He looks like Theodore Herzl. He's got the beard. He's gotten taller. I know I've gotten shorter, but he's gotten taller. He's a later day Theodore Herzl. And such a magnificent leader for UN Watch. At UN Watch, we have a saying originated tonight by me. Everything at UN Watch can be measured as B, H, and AH. Before Hillel and after Hillel. Before Hillel, UN Watch was a good organization. We had a modest budget, and we were very modest, and appropriately so. Then Hillel came along, and UN Watch became a very important spokesperson on behalf of Israel in Geneva and on behalf of universal human rights. Under Hillel's leadership, the organization, just monetarily, for those of you who are bean counters, has expanded more than fourfold. It now has offices in Israel, Geneva, and we're coming to New York. Watch out. After we take Berlin, we'll take New York. We are seen and heard by and read by millions of people around the world. A spectacular achievement, historic achievement. I once referred to Hillel as David and the countries that abuse their citizens as the Goliaths. And true to the biblical account, our Hillel, our David, has slain the biblical Goliath. But we've got to keep slaying the biblical Goliath. It's a never-ending battle. Human rights can never be taken for granted. Up and down, up and down. The apex was after World War II, the defeat of Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, totalitarian Japan. And on everyone's lips were the words human rights. The West was in the ascendancy. René Cassin from France, who was also Jewish. Eleanor Roosevelt from the United States, who was not also Jewish. We had the Universal Declaration of Universal Human Rights. The United States was in the lead in the campaign for universal human rights. Sadly, today, that is no longer the case. But what we can say is, in our own small way, we have persevered. We have kept the light shining and will continue to do so. Irwin quoted from Hillel, if not now, when? Good aphorism. But Hillel also said, if I'm not for myself, who will be? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And that sort of captures the whole Jewish ethos. The particularism, the defense of ourselves as Jewish people, our right to be different, to profess our faith in our culture, to recall and celebrate our history, but also to recognize we live in a world in which we're a very small part of. We're 15 million out of over 6 billion. Most people don't know that. We're a very small number, very few. But we make a difference, and if we make a difference, it's because we stand for what's right and just, and that is everything. Many of you know, because you're biblical scholars, that the Jewish people were not founded on some abstract notion. The whole origins of our peoplehood, which began with the patriarch Abraham, was that he was blessed because, in the words of the Torah, his household, his biti and his bini, his sons, will do what is right and just. No other reason for our being other than to do what is right and just. Thank you all.